Hey guys, it's the beginning of the month and you're probably trying to figure out what do I get to Legend with. I want to get to Legend, and I think I wanted to give decks that are specifically for getting to Legend, and I want to give specifically tempo-based aggressive decks to get to Legend. And by what that I mean is that these are decks that are about spending your mana, playing minions, putting on pressure, going for the win. These are the decks that really work on your fundamentals of Hearthstone. I think a lot of times the problem is people will be like, oh, I saw this person get #1 Legend with this deck. And I'm going to say you're not ready for that deck. Now, I don't know you personally. Maybe you are ready for that deck. But chances are, if you're the person who's searching for the deck to get to Legend every month, chances are you're not ready to play AAECAZICAA for #1 Legend, or Highlander Priest, or Enrage Warrior, or Broom Paladin. These decks are hard decks. They require technical mastery. They require multi-turn management. They require knowing when to be aggressive, when to play control. And I think when you're a beginner, you want a deck with a simple game plan and a linear path to victory. So something like Broom Paladin, some games you might throw away your pen flingers and play for control. Some games you might have to play really aggressively because they might lethal you if they're AAECADH. And so if you don't have a strong knowledge of the matchups, stuff like that, and knowing how to play different matchups, when to throw key resources, you're not going to do as well with it. And so if you're a beginner trying to get to Legend, the problem is you play some of these harder decks, there's just too much to think about. There's too many things to compromise, and you're better off playing a deck with a linear game plan with that. So just a direct path to victory. And what is that? Is aggressive tempo-based decks. By a tempo-based deck, I mean a deck that plays minions, that gets ahead on board, and then uses that minion advantage to spiral to victory. So I've got a bunch of decks. I believe I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 decks for you guys to get to Legend with. Some of these decks are #1 Legend viable. Some of these decks I don't think are #1 Legend viable, but I think they're still solid decks to get to Legend. I'll let you guys know which decks I think are a lot better at High Legend versus still good at High Legend versus which ones I think are going to tank off. But I wanted to kind of give you guys these decks. I think these are decks, they're all about you play minions, you use your mana, you put pressure on your opponent, you go for the win. And I think those kind of decks are great for beginners. And they can still work for great players too, but they're a great place to start. So if you haven't gotten a Legend before, or you struggle getting a Legend, these decks are great. The first deck I'm going to say is Highlander Hunter. Highlander Hunter is actually doing even better right now than it was before because it's very favored. I don't know if it's very favored, but it's a solid favorite against Stealth Rogue, which is literally everywhere right now. The biggest disadvantage of Highlander Hunter, you can see, I don't have Brand even, and that's the biggest advantage. We've all disenchanted our Brand, so I don't want to re-enchant him myself. But maybe you do, or maybe you forgot to disenchant him. Well, in that case, this deck is a great deck to get to Legend with. This is the #1 deck I recommend for beginners getting ready to Legend. And this is a deck that I find very boring myself. I'm not going to play it on, I barely play it on stream. And if I am playing on stream, it probably means I'm just prepping it for a tournament that I'm begrudgingly bringing. But it's a thing of, it's a solid deck. It plays the fundamentals of Hearthstone. You keep your low drops, and you play minions. You get pressure. You get in the face. You hit them in the face. You just keep hitting them in the face. You take occasional value trades, and bam, you win games. Bam, Highlander Hunter. That's how you win. And you do that with Highlander Hunter, you're going to do well. That's all I'm really going to say about it. But yeah, it's a great deck to get to Legend with, the best, and it's a strong linear game plan, not too complicated. The next one I'm going to go, this is a little bit harder, is Zoo Warlock. Currently, the flavor of the week is to run Cold Neophytes. I've looked at the stats. Cold Neophytes aren't even really performing particularly well, I believe. But you know what? They're the flavor of the week, and I could have just posted the same list I posted on previous lists on leaks because the deck hasn't changed much. But where's the fun in that? The idea is you post a different list and act like the whole game has changed and this is a revolutionary deck. The fact is, Cold Neophyte was played in previous was played previously in the deck. It's never particularly strong. It's a meta choice. So you can try it with the Cold Neophytes. If you don't like Cold Neophytes, you cut them both. You put 2 Soulfires in. Both are fine. So that's Zoo for you. I've got a ton of videos on Zoo if you need to learn Zoo, so go check those out. But very strong deck. And people are getting #1 legend with these days. So it's I think because it's a slight favorite against Stealth Rogue because of the Moshers. The Moshers, you can get a key heal at the right time. So because of that, if you play it well, you can do quite well with it. The third is go with, I don't even want to recommend this deck. I hate this deck. But, you know, I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you guys that this was a good deck to get to Legend. This is Stealth Rogue. It's so boring. Literally, I mean, it's a face race. Like, I'll play this against this deck, and my opponent will just never, ever trade. You could program a computer practically to play this deck. It's just, here's what you do. You play minions. You try and get some draw. You know, you play a self-sharpening sword, and you upgrade and get a cutting class. You manage your secret passage turn wells. Your secret passage turns well. You do go for Penflinger lethals towards the end, and you just ignore board and you go face, and you will win games. It's you win a lot of games. So it's, you know, I feel weird about recommending you this, guys. There's probably an occasional time you should trade, but it's amazing. Just go face. When in doubt, you're gonna win. And I'm sad that you're going to win, but I know if I don't put this deck list in the list, people will be like, well, what about Stealth Rogue? And I'll be like, yeah. I almost don't even think this is a good for you guys to get to Legend for the first time, because all you're going to learn is how to use mana and go face. But you know what? You got to start somewhere. So who cares about value trading? Who cares about fighting for board? Play mana, go face, easy Legend. So next, we got Token Druid. This deck is really good against the deck I just mentioned, Stealth Rogue. It uses Gibberling and Glowfly, and it makes these wide boards, and then it buffs them up. And Stealth Rogue is really bad at dealing with that. And I particularly chose this list. There's a lot of different lists out there, but I know a bunch of you guys are going to be like, well, I don't have Rising Winds, because pretty much every list runs Rising Winds. So I got a list that doesn't have Rising Winds for you guys. There's a lot of different lists. There are ones that run Soul of the Forest. There's one that runs Solar, but this one doesn't run Rising. It's a little bit faster, going for the quick win. Your 3 keeps are probably Gibberling, Fungal Fortune, and Glowfly. And then if you have those cards, like if you have Gibberling, you'd want to keep things like Nature Studies, stuff like that. Maybe if you had Fungal, you'd keep Nature Studies. So Nature Studies is a good keep if you have anything else. Sometimes I keep it anyways, but yeah, solid deck. And yeah, like I said, I intentionally chose this version, but if you have another version that you want to try out, they're all fine. There's lots of good versions out there, but this one doesn't run Rising Winds, and I know you budget players hate that card because you have to buy the whole expansion. I get it. So another great tempo kind of deck, aggressive deck to get to Legend with. Next, we got Aggro Demon Hunter, and I chose this list specifically because it's cheap. There's a lot of lists out there right now. There's a lot of different Aggro Demon Hunter lists, but this list doesn't run, it doesn't run Lilganoth, doesn't run Kane, doesn't run Altruis, and that might make it suboptimal, but this deck still is a solid win rate. And I was looking at different lists, and like I said, what I like about this list, a simple, solid game plan, play minions, get ahead on board, push damage, go face, bam, 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 take value trades, and you will get to Legend. This list. There are probably other lists out there. So if you have some of the other legendaries, but I specifically chose this list because it is very free to play friendly. So if you're a free to play player wanting to get to Legend, you can easily get to Legend with this deck. If you know the fundamentals, just play good fundamental Hearthstone, get ahead on board, spiral, take value trades, go face, bam, 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 spend your mana, easy Legend. And last, I got a little bit spicier version deck. I know Superior David, I've seen play a lot of it on ladder. It's this Aggro Rush Warrior. It only runs 1/1-drop, Imprison Gunnar, but it runs this, are they not even running that anymore? Wow, okay. They were running the 3 mana. Oh, wow. Okay, so I guess, so it only runs 1/1-drop. I thought they were running, so it's, Guys, I haven't even played this list, so I apologize for my. I thought so. The words I know there was one that runs Skydive Instructor, but I guess I found this version on Vicious Syndicate, and it looks like they don't even run Skydive Instructor, but they run the Imprisoned Gnarg, and you're really not fighting for board as hard as you're kind of getting these upgraded weapons, and then Nitro Boost poisoning your weapons, and using Cunning Class for draw, and then using Steel Dance for big minions. So this is something I've seen Superior David play. I think he actually played a different version, but this is kind of the version of Vicious Syndicate. This is a little bit spicier. I have not played this, you can see, but I wanted to give something a little bit spicier if you guys are a little bit trying to do something a little different. So I put this list in that looked interesting, that is actually a solid tempo-based list. I've even seen Glory, the world champion, play this on ladder lately. So people are playing this who are good players. So it's a thing of, I'm not sure about this. This is kind of newer, but it's something that is kind of on the up and coming. So if you want to try out something a little different, if you're so bored of this game and you want to play something different, try this out. So anyways, those are my 6 tempo-based decks to get to Legend. These aren't necessarily the best decks in the game, but they're all good decks. They're all have the thing in common of a strong, linear game plan, tempo-based game plan that puts on pressure and goes for the win. So I think that's a very good place to start for you as a player. The problem, like I said, with playing some of these weirder decks is they're not going to teach you those fundamentals, and these decks are all going to teach you the fundamentals. And if you know your fundamentals well, you can get to Legend with these decks, and you should get to Legend with these decks. So anyways, just wanted to give that, and I hope you guys enjoy.